Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 260 of the Canadian Football Countdown, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network and the Alternative Football Network. Ryan, Adam, and Trey here with you this evening to preview week number 8 in the CFL. Can't believe we're here at week 8 already. I feel like I say that every week as we go along. We've got 4 new CFL games to talk about. We'll talk through the major storylines, the fantasy players to watch. Real fun week of CFL fantasy this week. BC Lions are on a bye. A couple big name players out due to injury. Opens up some interesting possibilities for fantasy. We'll talk through those with each game. And we'll make our betting picks as well against the spread, over, under, and a player prop or two for each of the games. We'll also take your comments and questions in the live chat throughout the night here. Thanks to our presenting sponsor, Game Time TV. Learn more at GameTimeTV.ca or Facebook.com/GameTimeTVMB. Send in the comments, send in the questions in the live chat, and hello to anybody joining us here this evening. Before we bring in the panel, we do want to acknowledge that the Canadian Football Countdown is brought to you from Treaty 1 territory, traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Dakota, and Dene peoples in the homeland of the Métis Nation, as well as from Treaty 4 territory, traditional territory of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and Métis Nation. All right, I'm Ryan, joined, like I said, by Adam and Trey. I don't have a witty intro for them, so let's just bring them in one at a time here. Adam, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing good. Got a little bit of a tough day over on the farm. Had a little bit of problems. Got stuck. Had a tire gone. Lots of little things going on there. Of course, you can see it all in the Discord channel if you really want to look over there. But all good in the neighborhood otherwise. The Riders beat the Bombers. The life is good that way from week 7. And, moving on to bigger things like the Montreal Alouettes this week. Trey, what's the Bombers doing? They finally conceding that they're not as good as they used to be?
Yeah, but even Rider fans will find something to cry about after a win, right? So something about a late hit that I'd missed. I don't know. I watched it a couple times. Haven't seen much. See, even Rider fans, they can't be happy, man. You know.
I'm sure I heard a lot of Bomber fans complaining about. I'm sure I heard Bomber fans complaining a lot about pass interference.
That I don't see. Does. I'm not one of them though. I hate the rule. I'm not going to complain about it. And people, I heard a lot about officiating. We talk Andre Proof. We have a CFC Hall of Fame. He's going to be the only ref, right? Like hands down and not anonymous. His crew is usually top notch. Everyone, like, I think people, if we're going to talk about anything, I don't want to complain about the hit. We all know what Adam and I are going to say. We could sit here for an hour and talk about that.
But we did for about 10 minutes pre-show. That's why we were late.
That's what I mean. So we don't need to talk about it here. CFL refs, honestly, I watch every sport. CFL refs are probably the best. And if it's the people who don't watch other sports, I get it. But NHL is horrible. MLB is horrible. NFL is horrible. What other teams? Basketball is horrible. Right? Everything is college is horrible. Soccer is disgustingly horrible.
Well, less focused on officiating, more on drones in soccer now.
Well, that's what I mean. Soccer, I've never seen anything as bad as MLB and soccer. And UFC could be horrible, and there's one guy in there 8 feet away from you. So, I mean, the CFL is top-notch for all considering. We could be Bush League in a lot of things. We do a damn good job with officiating, I feel like. And if you watch...
Yeah, sorry, you go. Yeah, and you realize that the CFL ref, he's paid probably minimum if he is paid much. He has to work a second job all the time. These guys here aren't professional. Well, they are professional refs, but they're not just this is their dedicated life and that's all they do. They've got to go and teach or they got to go and do something else every day. And these guys do a bang-up job for the amount that they get, for the amount of grief they get, honestly. Andre's, and yeah, that game there last Friday night, yeah, Andre's crew had a bad night. Stuff happens.
What are you going to do? Saskatchewan, Winnipeg, man. It's going to be a chippy game. What do you expect? You know,
I mean, if you want to talk about chippy games, that BC Calgary game didn't have like 200 and something yards in penalties.
Yeah, that was that game there. They were throwing the flags like it was candy.
Yeah. Not the brightest week perhaps for officiating CFL, but and a low-scoring week also this week. A little more low-scoring, a couple of upsets, a couple of Fun games in there still this week. If you missed it, we've got a brand new show added to our weekly lineup where Mike and I actually talked about all of that on Monday. We starting this week, we're bringing back what we did last year with the weekly recap and Discord call-in show. So and this leads me into my plug to join the CFC Discord with the link in the episode description. It's free to join us over there. We've got lots of CFL chatter going on throughout the week. And on Mondays, we're recording the call-in show live in the Discord. You can hop in, ask your questions, leave your comments live. Join us there for that. And it's a chance to get to hear what Mike's thinking about the CFL when he can't make it here on Wednesday nights. So join us there. And if you miss it live, there's no video of it because I am on the road as we're using hands-free safe devices. That should be clear here when we're doing it. But the audio replay does get uploaded to the podcast feeds after the fact. So check that out and hear what Mike and I had to say about week number 7 as we roll off into week number 8. And join us in the Discord. Free to join. Link is in the episode description. Before we get into this week's games, I got a little show and tell actually here for you and a bit of a story time. We've had an interesting development here with the podcast since we last recorded, Thursday night last week, I think it was. The last couple of weeks, we've been talking about how the BC Lions are my new favorite team in the CFL. They've led me to back-to-back fantasy championships. They're going to lead me probably to a third again this year, although Adam might have something to say about that. And I've been hyping up the Lions and everything going on. I've been semi-joking over the last couple of weeks on the podcast. Somebody send me a BC Lions hat. I was like half joking, half like, hey, somebody actually do this? And not going to lie, I started looking on Facebook Marketplace and looking online to see, can I get myself a cheap Lions hat anywhere? And then after last week's episode, we post the clip on social media, and all of a sudden we get a reply from none other than the Vice President of Business Operations and Marketing, Carolyn Cody of the BC Lions, saying, hey, Ryan, DM me your address and we'll send you that orange hat. And of course, I get this at first. I'm like, okay, cool. This is a nice scam. No. So I sent out the message, checked in, and indeed what ended up happening was Nick Kowalski, the manager of digital media for the BC Lions, had checked out last week's episode, had seen me hyping up the BC Lions on it, and had sent off a message and said, let's get this man an orange hat, a BC Lions hat. So a couple of days of shipping later, and you know what? I've been jealous of your guys' hat game here on the show, so I've got me my BC Lions hat sent by the Lions organization. I think it's appropriate. I changed the studio lights from blue to orange alongside this as well, and got a little package that had the hat. They threw in I got some stickers over here.
Oh,
not sure where I'll put those yet. A drink holder from the BC Lions, and a handwritten note even here from them with a friendship bracelet that says, now you can support your favorite team loud and proud. You're officially a friend of the BC Lions. So they may be on a bye this week. We may not be talking about them a ton throughout the show, but I am definitely in my BC Lions era here on the podcast.
Hey, Trey, I just wanted to get it because you're the betting expert. How long is Ryan going to live when he puts those on his vehicle in Winnipeg?
Oh man, I'll key his car. What are you talking about, man? He might have to hand in his season ticket now, man. I don't know about that. I'm just kidding. You look good in the orange. Orange suits you. I'll tell you.
It is my favorite. It is my favorite color. Genuinely, it is my favorite color. So I'm happy to have the orange hat. I'm not sure how I feel about the snapback look. This is my first time. I don't know if I pull it off. Maybe folks can be the judge of that, but I don't know. I like it. I like the orange hat. So shout out to the Lions organization, Carolyn Cody, Nick Kowalski. I think the Lions are upper echelon of the CFL in terms of on and off the field product these days. I think they've raised the bar a ton with Amar Doman at the helm for the Lions organization, and top-notch team. And happy to adorn the hat. And my fandom is 100% for sale. The other 8 teams around the CFL, let's talk. Let's see what you can offer me and the crew here to top this.
I guess I've been talking a lot about the green Kool-Aid Saskatchewan, man. That hit was dirty. If it gets me a free hat.
I don't know if Adam froze or if he's.
I know. I couldn't tell either. That's a good posture. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, that was a good freezing posture there. So,
yeah, man. Anything's a dirty hit if he gets me a free hat, or maybe.
You know what? I'll even switch my loyalty too. I mean, it was perfectly clean hit. If Winnipeg wants to send me a hat, I'm just saying. I don't mind blue and gold. Looks good.
I mean, Trey took your Riders hat, so I think he owes you a Bomber one next time you see each other. So.
My kid brought that up. He's like, "Is this not the team we hate?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's a friend's hat." Well, you got to give it back to him. And I was like, "Well, he lives like 10 hours away. I'm not mailing it. Good luck."
6 hours, by the way.
Whatever.
Then it's worth a day.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, all the Tim stops along the number 1 highway, man. It'd at least be 10. There's at least, the Mooseman, Vernon, Brandon, Portage. Yeah. So got to stop everywhere, man.
Deadly.
I love it. Truly and only in the CFL, I feel like moment, though, to have a team randomly reach out to send some swag this way. And I did mention when I checked in if it was legit, I'm like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, do you really want to ship this all the way to Winnipeg? And the response was, any opportunity to get more orange in Winnipeg.
I mean, this is all free advertising, man, I guess. So, well, not free because what's shipping these days?
Yeah, shipping ain't cheap. I'll say that. So
No, but shout out to the BC Lions. Hope you all enjoy the bye week this week as we get into talking about this week's games on the schedule. Excited to talk about fantasy and betting and all that because I want to forget about last week. Awful week for me. I think I went 0-4 on all of my picks. So let's see what we do this week.
I didn't keep track. I'll have to update that. I forgot to update that. So
I think it's okay if you don't. Based on how I did. Well, let's talk about the first game here, though. The Saskatchewan Roughriders visiting the Montreal Alouettes, 2 juggernauts at the top of their divisions, except a little, walking wounded for both teams, I think is the storyline here. Cody Fajardo has been placed on the 6-game injured list by the Montreal Alouettes. Caleb Evans is getting the start. Shea Patterson continues to get the start at quarterback for the Riders, and they're going to be without A.J. Ouellette and Keon Schaefer-Baker, 2 of their top offensive pieces there as well. You look at their records, and I don't think we had necessarily predicted preseason that here in Week 8 we'd be seeing the head-to-head matchup on Thursday night between Shea Patterson and Caleb Evans for the top 2 teams in the CFL. Adam, what are your opening thoughts here?
Yeah, I think you're right. The storyline truly is the injuries. I mean, Keon Schaefer-Baker has something in his shoulder, not ready to go. However, the Riders can afford to kind of give him some rest. Ajo came in last week, looked really good. Didn't get the starting spot again because the Riders are so deep. Gave it to Keyshawn Johnson, which is strange to be the best way of saying it. But nevertheless, the Riders do have some depth in receivers, so right now they're doing all right. I think the bigger question is on the running game. A.J. Ouellette did have a fairly good game last week against the Bombers. Maybe not the best of games, but he did get hurt. Has been kind of struggling a little bit with a hip issue. I think this week here they're bringing back Frankie Hickson. He's going to start this game. And then we'll see how much they rotate in some of the other players as well. I think Ratcevich has a very good chance of getting rotated in quite a little bit in this one as well for the Rough Riders. Over on the Montreal side, getting off a bye week, so they expect him to be fairly healthy. However, Cody Fajardo, first of all, I want to say one thing. Jason Moss, if the guy's injured, don't bother playing games. Like, everybody could see that Cody Fajardo was hurt. He wasn't going to be playing this week. Herb Zawadzki from the Montreal Gazette has pretty much called him out the whole week and said, no, he's not playing. He's out. He's not even in the building. So don't give us that, Jason Moss. It ruins things for betting and for fantasy and everything else because somebody might just hold on hope on Cody Fajardo. He's not coming. He's not playing this week. Will be Caleb Evans. What's your thoughts? Can Caleb Evans get the job done? I mean, he still has the same receivers that Montreal's had all season. Philpo's still Philpo. Rambo has still been pretty good this season. Cole Speaker has had his moments that he's been very good. Can Montreal still pull this off even without Cody Fajardo? Trey, what's your thought?
I think so. I mean, for different reasons, but we were talking all offseason and early in the season. Can Toronto get it done with their backup quarterback? And maybe Caleb Evans isn't quite as good as Cameron Dukes, but I think Montreal has better talent around him than Toronto might have. So, I mean, again, is it 6 games? Not likely. Probably Cody will be out for 4 weeks. Is that what the max or minimum is? Something like that, 4 or 5 weeks if you're on the 6th, something like that. So I think, all Montreal has to do is keep their head above water, go 2-2, 3-3 over the next 4 to 6. And I think this is a good measuring stick game. Both teams I hate using that term, measuring stick game. I feel like it's Mike's catchphrase every time he's on the show. But I think this is a good measuring stick game for both games. Saskatchewan, everyone's kind of not sure on them, but they are 5-1, and Montreal's the other way where everyone's kind of like, oh, no one's going to stop them. So I think Caleb Evans, and I don't really care about the mind games. It's funny when coaches do that. I get your point for betting, and usually I'm a stickler with the betting, but I think when it's clear as day he's not going to play, you're an idiot if you bet on him or put him in your fantasy. And even still, if you're a real expert in betting or fantasy, even if he's a game time decision, you ain't putting your life savings on that, right? So, yeah, I think I really like this game, and I'm glad it's Thursday because I probably have to work Friday and Saturday. So, I'm really excited to actually be able to watch this game on tomorrow. Yeah, my week's gone by weird. I keep thinking it's Monday or Tuesday, and I'm like, why am I talking to you guys?
You can talk to us anytime you want, Trey.
I know, but I'm thrown off.
Somebody says make the BC hat permanent. I like it. Maybe it'll be a mainstay here on the show. I feel like I have to now after they sent that to me. Caleb Evans and the Montreal Alouettes. I mean, my thought there is that this team last year was led by the defense. This year, I expected them to be led by the defense. I expected the offense to be better, not to the extent that Fajardo and Philpott and all those guys have been so far. They've way outplayed my expectations up until this point. The intriguing thing for me is what are they going to do with Walter Fletcher this week with Caleb Evans getting the start, because he has had a combined 16 carries in his last 3 games, which is, basically just over 5 a game. So, do they lean on him a little bit more? Are we going to see more dump passes to Fletcher, which is where he's found his success so far this year? We'll get into that a little with fantasy here shortly, but it's how does the offense change? Because I don't think we're expecting Evans to throw as many of these successful deep balls that he has to guys like Philpott so far this year. I don't think we're expecting him to throw for 300 yards. I'm probably expecting maybe a 200-yard game from Caleb Evans and a handful of scrambles and maybe a touchdown, a couple picks. That's the kind of game I'm expecting from Evans here. And it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how he handles that against Saskatchewan defense that has been pretty darn good so far this year at shutting opposing teams down. And I think these are the 2 top defenses in the CFL going head-to-head in this game.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, though, what I'm going to disagree with you a little bit, Ryan, on the use of Caleb Evans. I think he's got to throw this ball out quite a little bit this game. That's the only real place that the Rough Riders are very weak, is maybe, and not very weak even, their secondary, besides Roland Milligan. If you don't have him in there, then you got a little bit better of a chance. Otherwise, the secondary is maybe the only place that you can maybe exploit the Riders a little bit. Their run game, I wouldn't pick Walter Fletcher this week because their run game has been spectacular for the last little bit for Saskatchewan. They haven't got the pressure on quarterbacks yet as much, I don't believe, when you look at their stats. But they have got a lot of rush blocks up that runners are only getting 1 yard, half a yard, that kind of thing. So once guys go and commit to the run, the Riders have them. But I think there's still time for a guy to get passes off. And I think that maybe they need to get some quick slants, that sort of thing, out to Philpo and to Rambo quickly. And I think that the Alouettes can do that. So I'm not really concerned on the if he throws the ball quite a bit, Caleb Evans, just because I think he almost has to kind of keep that rider run defense off of him. The other side of the football, I think that we looked at last week and we said Jacob Brammer has a real challenge in front of him when he played.
Crushed it.
Willie Jefferson was a non-factor essentially. But yeah, maybe one knockdown. Did he? I think
he had a sack, but
maybe he had a sack. Okay, but I mean, you got to remember that's a rookie against a veteran and one of the best that's done it in the game. And yeah, Jacob Brammer looked really, really good with that line in there. That begs the question, I guess. Most of Montreal's defense is about pressure and rushing the quarterback quite a bit. Which one gives first, the defense or the offense in this one?
Well, to me, like I'm intrigued how Shea Patterson performs against this Montreal defense here, because yeah, they're going to get pressure on the quarterback. You know, we talked about Brammer facing Willie Jefferson last week. Let's be honest, Willie Jefferson's taken a step back this year. He's had a couple of good games, but not to the extent he has before. Same thing with, you know, a lot of guys on that defense for the Bombers, even though they're still actually playing decently defensively. But now he's facing the test that has shut basically every opposing quarterback down, Shea Patterson. And I think these next couple of weeks are huge for him, because Trevor Harris is now, 2 weeks away from coming back from injury, something like that. One more game after this, maybe, until he's back. And so, Harris is going to play and get the starts when he comes back. He's also getting up there in age in his career. And how many years does Harris have left? So these couple of weeks so far have been Patterson's chance to really show, like, hey, make me the next guy here in Regina. And he hasn't done anything flashy really yet, but he's made his plays that I think have to have him in consideration for their quarterback of the future here. I know I always joke about bringing back Mason Fine, and I wasn't sold on Shea Patterson coming into the year. I'm not 100% sold on him, but I will pay him respect for what he's done in the last couple of weeks. Trey, what do you think about what you've seen from Patterson so far?
Are you going to go and also tell Willie Jefferson about what Ryan said?
Yeah, for sure. That's next time I see him. Yeah, I'll tell him that. I'll tell him my thoughts on Zach while I'm there too. So, I think I agree. I've definitely he's not coming out here and lighting it up like Kelly did last year or Cameron Dukes did in the early season or other guys, but he's doing what they need to do. They still only have one loss to their record. They're tops in the West. What more do you want from this guy? Is he playing well enough to hold on to the spot when Harris comes back? Probably not. But what else is he doing, right? Like, he's not doing it to the point where they need to bring in another guy or going to the third stringer or getting Adam out there. So I don't mind it. I mean, he's beaten some tough teams, and I think again this will be a good test for him. Like, what if they win on Thursday? And I know we could give Montreal the handicap saying that they have the backup quarterback, but their defense isn't playing with tons of backups right now. So if Shea Patterson goes out there and wins, I think you got to, give him a lot of credit. I've liked what I've seen out of him. Adam, you watch a little bit closer. Has he really not done anything terrible, has he?
No, I don't think so. I mean, he's controlled the ball. He's controlled the game in front of him. He's made some good passes when he's had to make some good passes. Made some real nice tight spirals and everything else. Last week, I know there was a few plays that he was going to get pressured by Winnipeg right away. Got a quick ball off. I think one that I can remember was that a Joe play. Got the ball off real fast, and the Joe managed to grab 20, 30 yards on yak yards. I thought that Saskatchewan did very well on what, again, their offensive line has done well on holding and giving him a chance to get the ball off. Which will be challenging this week because, Montreal is a whole different beast than almost any team they've seen. But Shea Patterson hasn't put himself in a bad place either yet, except for on the sidelines with 5 seconds left. But we weren't allowed to talk about that anymore. Nevertheless.
No, it's going to be a 3-hour show if we talk about that. Let's get into the fantasy side of things for this game. and take a look at both Montreal and Saskatchewan here. I'm out on both quarterbacks this week. Caleb Evans has put up 30-point games at some point in his career, to be fair. But I don't like the matchup of a mobile quarterback against the Riders that are pretty good at stopping the run and mobile quarterbacks. And I do like Shea Patterson at the price because I think he's cheap. I want to say he's like, $7,500 or something like that. I don't have the prices written down here, but not against Montreal's defense because they shut everybody down. Quarterbacks are averaging 9.8 points against Montreal's defense so far this year. It's not worth it there. At the running backs, you've got Walter Fletcher on one side, Frankie Hickson on the other. Fletcher, I see some comments here in the chat from Q-Man. Probably likewise staying away from Fletcher. Tough matchup against that Saskatchewan run defense this week. He really doesn't run a lot. I think he might get more carries now with Evans at quarterback, but that's not a guarantee at all. And I think if he doesn't get the receiving work, he could be a bit of a bust. So count me out here on Walter Fletcher for this week. But Frankie Hickson's an intriguing play. I think he comes in $3,500 if I recall, $2,500 even. They actually didn't add him in there until today. Bare minimum price to pay for a starting running back. He's shown flashes 2 years ago, I think it was, with the Riders, and Montreal's defense actually is up, as good as their defense has been, 109 rushing yards a game. So I think there's an opportunity for Hickson to make some magic happen there as they probably close in on the pass. Looking at wide receiver on Montreal's side, Cole Speaker, Tyson Philpott are intriguing, but I don't know if I'm as likely to go in on Philpott this week with Evans at quarterback because I don't think he's throwing for as much as Fajardo. Between the two, I'd actually maybe be inclined to go with Cole Speaker because he's had weeks of 8 targets. He's been pretty consistent the past couple of weeks and had 2 top 5 finishes in his last 3 weeks, and he's a little bit cheaper. So if I go with a Montreal receiver, maybe I'm thinking of Cole Speaker. On the Riders side, Ajo is tempting. He's looked fantastic until the depth chart came out today and showed him as a backup. Now I don't trust it. I don't know how much he's going to play, and if I can get a cheaper deal elsewhere, I'd probably go with one of those instead. And Sam Emilus is the only Riders receiver I may consider because he's got 3 top 11 finishes in his last 3 games. Seems like he's one of Shea Patterson's go-to guys at wide receiver, but I have a hard time with the Riders receiving core pinpointing which guy is going to get the big game, and Patterson has not thrown for more than 300 in a game yet, and I don't think that's going to happen against Montreal either. So not a whole ton I'm looking at in this game. Probably Frankie Hickson is the one I'm most intrigued by. Let's go to you first, Trey. What do you got?
In Thursday's game, all I'm looking at, because I kind of am scared of that Montreal offense for kind of reasons you said. I'm liking Saskatchewan's defense because you don't know what Caleb Evans is going to do, right? He might throw a couple picks. He might, be uneasy. He's only really had this week to be with the first team, right? So that's kind of honestly the only thing I'm looking at Thursday night because, like, my normal Ouellette's out, Schaefer Baker's out. I was hemming and hawing about Patterson until you made the point, not against Montreal's defense. So that's kind of running me out of options here.
Yeah, I also had Saskatchewan's defense. It actually is the one I'm leaning towards unless they go dirt cheap minimum price. If I have money left over, I'm thinking Riders as well. They've got 3 weeks of double-digit fantasy points in their last 4 games and are one of the only defenses delivering consistently.
And they're not expensive. Like, if you want to go dirt cheap with Ottawa at $7,000, you're paying $2,500. What's that really going to get you? Like, so Adam.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, Trey. I'm going to take Saskatchewan's defense this week. Caleb Evans, you don't know what's going to happen, and I think he's going to be forced to throw, which means Roland Milligan. Amari Henderson's back this week as well, and he does like picking off football. So you got a pretty deep secondary that does like to pick, and they are kind of ball hawks. I know Sales, Thurman, they all had pretty good games last week against Winnipeg. I'm going to go with the Riders D, and I'm going to go with Tyson Philpo. He's given me so many points over the last while. I just can't say no to him. And you know what? Ryan's chart said that Justin McInnes was not going to be any good against the Riders, and then he turned out to be dynamite. So, yeah.
That was with Vernon Adams at quarterback. We're talking about Caleb Evans here.
Fair enough. But you know what? I think that Caleb Evans and Tyson Philpo have been just throwing balls all week nonstop and haven't stopped all even for sleep. They've been throwing balls to each other because, you know what? They got to make sure that Tyson Philpo goes, or else this Montreal offense is in deep trouble. So he's had a whole bye week to get some stuff ready. I think if there's anybody that'll be ready with him, it's Tyson Philpo. Yeah, I'm going to take Philpo.
Can I throw something out there too? But maybe take a look at somebody on Montreal that might have started the season with the second team. If there's someone in the receiving core, you see that sometimes. I can't remember the team, but we noticed that against. I can't remember what game it was, but somebody was calling it on the broadcast that, this guy started on the second team. Now he's with the backup. It's going to be connection. So I can't think of that, but maybe like I'm trying to think of a guy. Is it Speaker? Was Speaker somebody who's always been the first team? Something like that. I can't think of it. Phil Potts been.
It's the classic Streveler and Drew Wolotarski. They went to university together.
That's what I mean. Yeah,
like that, right.
So there's going to be someone he's going to lean on. Might be Phil Pot, but also Saskatchewan. If they're smart, they're going to triple team Phil Pot, right? So then it's going to open up maybe Caleb Evans' roommate from college that we don't know about that's on Montreal, right?
Yeah, if you're looking at one guy for that trade, probably would be Shedler Furlius. He's one of the receivers that is projected to play this week and is on the active roster all of a sudden. So another guy you could maybe look at too is Nate Bahar. I mean, sometimes he just has those games and he just goes off. Could be one of those, but he also doesn't have very much experience with the offense in Montreal. Just got in, so.
But he does have experience with Caleb Evans in Ottawa, so he is the backup. So who knows how much he'll play? But that is a good point there as well. Yes, excellent point. Let's get into betting on this game here. Montreal 3.5-point favorites. Line is over under 48.
Well, real quick, I got them all calculated. Here's our standings. Me, Adam, and the coin went 2-2 last week. Ryan on spreads went 0-4. So I'm 15-11-1. Ryan, Adam, and the coin are all 11-16-1.
I'm tied with the coin
and Adam, Ryan. And Adam.
Yeah, actually, that's even more embarrassing. No,
and then the over/under. Ryan and myself went 1-3 by my calculations, putting Ryan at 16-12. I'm at 13-11 because I missed last week or 2 weeks ago. Adam went 3-1, so puts him up over 500 on that at 15-13. So we're making money. Well, not you guys on the spread, but the rest of us are making money.
And I think I went 0-4 on the prop picks last week too.
Man,
so
I didn't give any.
That one in the
I didn't give any, so I saved my money for this week, I guess. Big USD this weekend, so I tried to save some money. But yeah, let's stick with football. I actually, this is probably the first week I haven't actually pre-picked, so it's all going to be spear of the moment on the. Call me crazy. I'm going to go with Saskatchewan plus 3.5, and I would even probably take the money line only because we've seen a little bit more out of Patterson this year than we have of Caleb Evans. So I would lean that way, and both sides have some significant injuries. Ryan?
You just want a hat from the Riders. That's all it is. I'm going to stick with Montreal. They're coming off the bye week. We knew that coming out of last game that Caleb Evans was probably going to start this one. They've had a lot of time to prep with him. I think Montreal is better than just their quarterbacks. So give me the Alouettes in this one. I'll probably regret it again because I keep seemingly getting the Riders games wrong here, but I'm going to go with the under on this game, actually, though, because I think, not rookie, but, backup quarterbacks for both teams, strong defenses. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game.
I'll take the over. I didn't say that. Adam, what do you got, buddy?
I'm going to go, and you know what? I'm wearing the Rider jersey and the Montreal hat just to see if I could mess with anybody and what I'm going to pick. But I'm going to pick the Riders because I think they will actually win this one. They play well in Montreal lately, and I don't know why. Maybe they go an extra day earlier now, or they don't let them go to the Montreal Strip. I don't know what it is. Nevertheless, the Riders have done pretty well lately in Montreal. Usually there's always a storm somewhere in the middle of it, and I'm sure they hate those horns in Montreal, but nevertheless, I'm going to go with the Riders. I'm going to go with the under as well because you're right, Ryan. It's defense. This is a defensive game with backup quarterbacks. So under, and give me the Riders. And the coin is going with the Montreal Alouettes.
Ooh.
It's going. The coin's going against its picture.
I'm still going to be tied with the coin after this game, no matter what. Player props. You guys got them up? I've got some up here to take a look at. There's not a ton for this game due to the unsureness of the quarterback situation, I guess. I can go first. I'll go with Sam Emilus over 48.5 receiving yards in this game. I talked about him as a maybe player for consideration. He's had over that total in his last 3 games. 2 weeks ago, he had a big game of 161 yards. I think he is Shea Patterson's at least one of his favorite targets. We have to remember Schaefer Baker's going to be out as well. That's more targets to go around. Give me Sam Emilus in this game.
The one I've got for you, Walter Fletcher is 52.5 for the spread for over-under. On this one here for rushing yards, I'm going to go with the under on this one here, because I think the Riders are going to be queuing up and looking for Walter Fletcher. And I think then afterwards they're going to try to ball hawk Caleb Evans and try to make him throw to beat him. So, yeah, Walter Fletcher, I'm going to go under 52.5. That's pretty scary, really.
Yeah, officially, I'll go with the Shea Patterson over 1.5 passing touchdowns. I think, again, because I took the over, I think this one's going to be more of a gun show than we think. It's not up there, but I can imagine on game day, whatever Hickson is, I'll take the over on that too, if it pops up, because I think watch him break one. You know what I mean? Watch him be like, hey, you started this guy over me, and then he's going to go and light it up and take the Thor hammer.
I could see it. That's that's Montreal's weakness, right? Is their run defense over their pass defense. So let's see what Hickson can do as we move on to our second game of the week here, which is the Calgary Stampeders visiting the Ottawa Redblacks on Friday night. I believe this matchup is a very close game on the betting lines. Calgary on the road is a 1-point favorite in this game. Both teams, I believe, coming off wins here. Ottawa now at 4-2 in the standings after back-to-back wins over the Elks. The Stamps pull off the big win over the BC Lions this week and shut Vernon Adams down. Adam, let's go to you first. What's the big storyline here?
I think pretty much on this one here, it's Calgary pulling off a big win against BC. And I think mostly the way they did it was turnovers. They seem to be starting to get a little bit healthier in their secondary. I think DeMario Houston may play this game, may not play this game. He did get moved to the 1-game injured list last week. So it'll be interesting to see if he does play. That's a big piece for the Calgary Stampeders to start picking balls off. And you do have Drew Brown, who's kind of still, yes, he has been in the CFL for a little while, but he is an inexperienced, as maybe a little bit more of an inexperienced quarterback than others. Be interesting to see what Calgary secondary does in this game. Guys, what do you think? Trey? Ryan?
Well, Drew Brown, I'm still out there trying to. Both of these teams really are the two hardest teams to nail down in the CFL for me right now. Are they good or are they average or are they not? Because they seem up and down week after week. Like last week, Ottawa, they struggled to pull that one out over the Elks. Like Drew Brown didn't get a whole lot done after he threw for 480 yards the week before. Expected him to light it up again. It was a tough slog for them to get through it. So, I think he's had his up and downs as, his first year as a starter here so far. And I think he'll continue to have those. And I think Calgary's a defense that's maybe a little underrated so far this year. You look at who they've shut down. They were, 8 weeks through 7 weeks of the season. Calgary's played 6 of them. 2 of them have been against Zach Collaros, 2-time MOP. I know he's struggled this year. 2 of them have been against Vernon Adams Jr., and they've shut down VA twice now, better than anybody else has in the league. So I think Calgary's defense needs some respect, for, at least in their passing defense, for how they've played so far this year. So we'll see what they can do to Drew Brown, and especially if they can get some of those pieces back in their secondary.
Oh, yeah, I agree. And they're hard to pinpoint, but I've been pleasantly surprised with Calgary. I think Jake Mayer was one of our top quarterbacks in our fantasy league last week. You know what I mean? He was
the highest scoring fantasy quarterback last week. Yeah.
Yeah. So, which helped me out when Montreal was on a bye and Fajardo's out. So, and I was not high on him at all. And I'll be the first one to admit when I'm wrong, and I'm still not wrong because the season's not over. But when I am wrong, and Jake Mayer might be up near the top there, like try to find his stats here.
I've got him here. 307 yards and 3 touchdowns last week.
That's the kind of stat line my Heisman quarterback on college football has every game, man. So, I mean, that's pretty good if you're going to get 307 yards, 3 touchdowns. And my big thing about Mayer was he seems to throw a lot of picks. But when you go no against BC like that, the big ostrich egg in that category, that goes a long way. And, man, I think Calgary's defense has been surprisingly well, but isn't that always what it kind of seems to be, surprisingly well in Calgary? No matter what happens.
Yeah.
The two things that I knew was going to happen was Bo is going to play. He's going to shove it in their face, and Bo's going to play better, and then Calgary is going to somehow be good. Both things are going to be true.
I called it with Calgary in free agency in February. They were my dark horse team. Didn't believe in them at all coming into the year as we went along, and I came more to my senses. But 3-3 on the season, they're kind of in that middle, and they're going to jockey back and forth for that presumably that third spot in the West. Maybe they can weasel themselves into that conversation in the top 2, but it might be tough with how BC and Saskatchewan have played at times throughout the year. Interestingly, on the Ottawa side, Jeremiah Mazzoli is healthy and available for this week's game. I know there was a little bit of talk going on about that one in the Discord earlier today. There's even if he is, there's no way, right, Adam, that he gets a start over Drew Brown. Brown has led you to a 4-2 start, your best start in years. Yeah, he's had his ups and downs, but you're not benching him to put in the guy who's played, one game in the last 2 seasons due to injury?
Yeah, no, you can't. I mean, Mazzoli, it's unfortunate what happened to him. Yes, he shouldn't have got maybe injured in Saskatchewan that time. There was the next injury the next year. It sucks. I mean, it just, it piled on, and it sucks for the guy in his career. But you know what, Drew Brown, you're right. Has led you to a 4-2 start. He's done really nothing too terribly wrong. Yes, a couple odd picks and that kind of terrible game against Montreal, essentially. Otherwise, he hasn't hurt you. Like Mazzoli and Crum and so many quarterbacks before us, Serge Arbuckle, have hurt you before, like in Ottawa. Drew Brown knows the offense. He knows the offensive line right now. He's got a new running back in Raquel Armstead that, again, Jeremiah Mazzoli's not used to these guys right now. I don't think he's getting the number 1 reps in practice. I'm sure it's Drew Brown. You just can't do it. I mean, if you got a blowout game and Calgary's dominating you and it's like 29-0 at the half, okay, that's a different story. Maybe you can do a swap, but otherwise you should not see Jeremiah Mazzoli in this game, right, Trey?
I think this is pure insurance policy. We saw Drew Brown go down against Winnipeg a few weeks ago, right? And you got Crum in there and you got a couple other guys, but I think this is purely insurance policy, right? You want as many quarterback, we talk about running backs being a dime a dozen. Sometimes in football, quarterbacks can be too. We get a lot of injuries, and especially in the CFL, it seems like we run through guys. Seems to be one of the best years for starters, knock on wood, so far. But I think it's just insurance policy. Get him out there. Do I think he'll play it down? No, unless Brown, Crum, and Arbuckle all are in a car crash together. You know what I mean? Or they're all together at the same time and hit by lightning. Like, I don't think Mazzoli's going to get it down this year because I would go with all the other guys, but it's a guy to get in the building with a clipboard. Is it going to hurt Ottawa to have him with a clipboard or more involved? And maybe he can actually get out there and run the plays and see things. I don't think it's going to hurt him.
And there's a comment in the chat that wants to know if you're related to Ben Major, Adam.
No, I'm not related to Ben Major.
Why the
not
Ben
related
Major?
to anybody in the CFL, unfortunately. But yeah, well, Ben Major isn't a bad umpire as well. He has his games.
Yeah, they all do. The interesting thing with the matchup, and we could have our arguments if we wanted a 3-hour show about whether home field advantage matters, but we'll hold that out. Calgary 3-0 at home, 0-3 on the road. Ottawa 3-0 at home.
Okay.
So far this year, Ottawa having a chance to go 4-0 at home. I can't believe we're actually in a spot to see that after years now where Red Blacks fans have showed up to games expecting to leave disappointed because this team couldn't seem to win in front of its own fans.
There is no way in hell McMahon Stadium has a home field advantage. I can maybe concede. I've been playing a lot of college football, and holy, you go to Michigan and the Florida State, they have it set that your screen is shaking crazy because you're in hell, in enemy territory. But out of any of the CFL ones, you're telling me McMahon Stadium, Ryan, that's going to be your argument?
Hey, I'm just pointing out the stats. You're making the argument for me.
I'm not making any argument. McMahon Stadium.
When you're in McMahon Stadium and that stadium is shaking, you are in fear for your life.
Yeah. It's shaking because the Stampede's on the other side of town. I don't know, man. But
I mean, just running on the turf there at McMahon Stadium, you're fearing for your life. Oh. So with the number of injuries that seemingly happened there.
Hopefully the Stamps are able to play at this new hockey rink they're building there. Because, I mean, they almost need a football stadium more. But anyway.
Arena football games just whenever you go to Calgary.
Oh, man. Anyway.
I think
just a stat to point out there. Can Ottawa keep the streak going? Can Calgary break the streak on the road in this game? We'll see. Let's talk about the fantasy players in this game. Jake Maier, again, top scoring quarterback last week. Drew Brown put up 25 points the week before. I'm staying away from, I think, both of them this week. I would maybe consider them, but like I said, Calgary's actually pretty good at shutting down opposing quarterbacks. Third best in the league behind Montreal and Winnipeg in terms of fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks here. So Calgary finds a way to shut them down usually. Ottawa also, kind of in the middle there. Jake Maier, he's been up and down throughout this year. So I don't think I'm going either direction. I think I like some of the quarterback plays better in the later games here. At running back, Raquel Armstead continues to be a stud to consider putting in your fantasy lineup. What is his price at right now? He's up to $6,000. And he has finished as a top 5. So he's still a value play at $6,000, and he has been a top 5 finishing running back, including top 3 twice in his last 4 games. At least putting up 10 points, 11 points a game in his last 4, each of them, and he's getting some work through the air and some work on the ground, decent workload there. And I think Calgary does give up a little bit more to the run. Dedrick Mills is in consideration for me as well, a little bit here and there. He does get enough work through the air. Like he's catching 2 to 3 balls a game. Mills doesn't have a touchdown yet this year, though, which is a bit concerning. And I don't honestly know if he put up one last year either. So it seems like Calgary running backs the last couple of years have just not scored touchdowns. They either pass it in or Tommy Stevens runs it. So I think that hurts Mills' value ever so slightly here. And at wide receiver, again, I don't like taking receivers on Calgary's side because I think Maier does spread that ball around and it's hard to pinpoint a specific one. But on the Ottawa side, I do like Justin Hardy. I continue to like him. He had a bit of a more down week last week with 11.3 points only, but still a top 11 finish there for him. He's getting the targets every week. And Khalil Pimpleton's the exciting new piece there at a cheaper price in the Ottawa offense. In his 2 games so far, 25.3 and 10.6 fantasy points. I was concerned after the 2 weeks ago that it was big plays but not enough targets, and then he got 9 targets last week. He is I think, found his spot in that Ottawa offense, and he is here to stay. And I think Drew Brown and him are going to continue to have a little bit of success here and there. Adam, what you got?
So far, I'm going to switch my receiver right away, I think. But we're going to put in right now Dominic Rhymes. I don't know why. I just got a feeling with him that he's got to have a breakout game again. And traditionally, he's done very well against Calgary, though he did have somebody with an orange hat back in the day throwing to him. Yeah, those guys. So anyways, I'm going to go with Dominic Rhymes. Raquel Armstead, I think, is going to be my running back. Calgary is average against the run. Again, these are two average teams playing each other, so it's hard to tell which guy to go with or who to go with. I'm going to go with those two right now. Don't be surprised, though, if I switch Rhymes and go with Tyson Philpo. Something about him also that there might be some chance that he could go off as well. So those are my three that I may think about. So, Trey, what do you got?
You mean Jalen Philpott, right? Because that is my starting receiver right now, because 20.8 points last week. He's still only 4,500. And I work with enough guys that have lined up against Jalen and Tyson in college, and they say when Jalen gets healthy, he'll be just as good as Tyson. So I think maybe last week was one of his, like, hey, I'm 100%, slowly getting 100%, if not 100%, and he opened up. And I got Marin. Like I said, he was my golden boy in our fantasy last week. No Fajardo. I'm not. God, if I play Caleros, make sure come check on me. And there's not other many quarterbacks in this league that I really want to throw up there right now with VA on the bye. So and Armstead. Armstead's kind of been a mainstay at 6,000. I think he's done enough that it's been worth it.
Yeah, Jalen Philpott, the highest scoring wide receiver last week with 20.8 points. There certainly a breakout game. We'll see what he can do going forward here with that one as well. Let's talk betting on this game. The line, Calgary -1 on the road here. Over-under is at 51 on this game. What you got for us, Trey?
Oh, man, I love it. Close game. I like when these lines are pretty much coin flip. I'm going to take Calgary -1. I'm feeling the Stamps now. I'll admit I'm wrong. I think this is going to be a close game. It's going to definitely be a field goal game between the. You know what? Give me the over. So I'll take Calgary and the over. Ryan.
I'm looking at this matchup. Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a coin flip one. I think I'm still feeling Calgary a little bit more. I hyped up their defense quite a bit. Maybe I'm not as sold on Drew Brown. I've seen more good games from Calgary. Give me the Stamps here on the coin flip. I'm going to go with the under on this one again, though, as well. I think it'll be close, but I don't know. All the lines were over 50 last week, and I think all of them hit the under on it. So, again, two average teams are going to score slightly below average point totals.
I've seen one team that wanted to win last week and one team that was just uninspired but still won. Honestly, they scored a lot of points, but it didn't look pretty when Ottawa beat Calgary. So I'm going to go with the Stampeders just because, I don't know why. Ottawa just feels like they're uninspired. I mean, when you go in, you should be wanting to just absolutely dominate a team like Edmonton. And they just look like they kind of know, well, we want it. Great. Maybe they're too busy listening to McCall Bethel Thompson's comments after. I don't know. But nevertheless, I'm going to go with the under on this one as well. I don't see a whole lot of points coming out of this one. Neither team, I don't know. This is, again, an average game that just is an average time and an average week. It's on Friday night. I guess that's cool. But otherwise, I don't know why. This game here just doesn't feel like it's really getting me excited. But yeah,
to me, this is other, like, you could look at Thursday being the game of the week because of where they are, but I almost feel like this is the game of the week because both these teams are on the line of early playoffs, right? Yeah. This game could be the big for crossover. It could be big for Calgary's trying to stay away from Winnipeg and Edmonton and try to catch BC and Saskatchewan. Like, I probably almost put this at the game of the week more in some capacities than Thursday. So watch them ball out, but watch it be 19-20, and to be honest, 19-20 in the CFL still can be pretty exciting. So, and let's see what what's the coin? What does the coin say? So we're going to sweep the Stamps, or is it going to go with the Red Blacks?
No, it is going with the Ottawa. The Ottawa Red Blacks.
There you go, Ryan. You got a chance to get ahead.
Got a chance to beat the coin this week. All right.
You also have a chance to go under the coin.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah, but that's not going to happen, right?
You're really flipping the coin there, Ryan.
Yeah.
Could be a flip of the coin either way.
This game honestly is. I should have flipped the coin to decide what I was picking on it. What do we got for player props on this game? Who wants to go first there?
I'll go first. I took a pass. I like the quarterback ones the most, I think, because they get the ball every play almost, it seems like. Wonder how that works out. So I'm going to take Jake Mayer with the over 1.5 passing touchdowns because that also helps me in fantasy. So that's the way I like it. I often bet the way it helps me in fantasy. It's hard to bet against a player you have in fantasy because then, yeah.
I think that's reasonable what you're saying there, right? Because if you're picking a guy in fantasy, you're picking him because you think he's going to have a big game, which would generally mean that you think he's going to go over the total. So
I've accidentally done that in NFL where I have a fantasy guy and then I bet the under on him, and that was a very awkward Sunday at my house. So
conflicting emotions on every play.
Yeah.
I need you to do good, but not too good.
Yeah. You can get 1 yard touchdowns, but no yards, no big yard plays.
I remember doing that the other week there. I was laughing because I knew the other guy had one of the Rider players, and I'm like, yes, the Rider scored. Yeah, bugger. Should you throw it to somebody else?
Yeah.
So it was
fantasy football is cruel like that. Adam, do you want to go next?
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to go with the receiving yards for one of the receivers here. Markham Michelle, I'm going to go with a over 51.5 points or yards. I think he's going to do pretty good tonight, this week. So he's been having better games with Calgary lately. I can't say anything about Reggie Bagleton because I still haven't found him yet again. But Markham Michelle has been doing okay. Yeah, let's go with over 51.5.
Reggie Bagleton was the second highest scoring fantasy receiver last week. He still only put up like 50 yards, but that touchdown helped when the rest of the league kind of sucked last week. I'll stick with the receiving yards. I'm going to the Ottawa side. I'm going back to the prop that failed me last week, and I'm taking the Justin Hardy, don't call him Jake Hardy, over on here. 68.5 is the line. Last week, I think it was 70-something. He came in at 61 last week, and I feel like it was a little more down of a game for them. I think he's still going to be the guy that gets the most work there in the Ottawa passing game. So I will take that one on this game as we move into our third game of the week, which is Winnipeg Blue Bombers visiting the Toronto Argonauts here on Saturday. It's our Saturday game this week. And, both teams coming off of the Bombers coming off of a loss last week to Saskatchewan. The Argos coming off a disappointing defeat to the Ticats, handing them their first win. Both teams looking to get back on track in this game. Trey, I see you getting the whiteboard out already, so let's turn it over to you first. What do you want to talk about?
Oh, man, this might be the longest part of the show. Hold on to a damn football, Dembski. That's one thing. I mean, that's a guy who's been in the league for as long as he has. Did he play for the U of M or did he go to the States?
No,
either
U of M.
Still learn how to hold. This isn't junior foot. I was watching. Okay, I'll set Friday real quick because we have time. I was working at Cowboys. I'm outside checking IDs, watching the game on my phone, and the guy doing cover charge, big Rider fan. So he had a second earlier. I had a delay, so he was a second ahead of me. So after that fumble, I'm looking at the big play, and I hear him cheering, and I'm like, "What the heck's going on?" Big fumble. But anyway, I think Dembski needs to hold on to the football. I think they need to get rid of Zach or figure something out with the quarterback or offense. This offense is messed up. Is it Buck Pierce? Is it Caleros? Is it column A, column B? Adam, I'm curious because you're the only non-Bomber fan in the room right now. And be nice. What the hell's wrong with their offense?
It's not your offense. It's actually the problem, which is going to sound crazy. It is your defensive that cannot go and hold a run game to anything. I mean, the average running yards right now for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and if I'm looking at this right, because probably I'm not, and I'm going to read this wrong, and then Ryan's going to tell me all about it, but I'm going to still do it anyways in case I am right. Opponent rushing yards Against the Bombers, 119.9 yards per game. The rushing attempts, because teams know they can run the ball against Winnipeg, 163. I'm sorry, they cannot give up those many yards rushing. If they're doing that, they're going to lose a lot of football games. Their receiving core, yes, okay, it's injured. I get it. Collaros is not the same as he used to be. That offensive line is missing Jamarcus Hardrick as much as you can imagine. Yoshi is missed in Winnipeg right now. You can't tell me that he isn't, because Collaros has no time on his hands and really looks like he's kind of finally taken that step back. But that defensive line has got to be holding up or doing something to not let these... They made the Riders look like the number one offensive line of the week. When was the last time you heard the Riders as the number one offensive line in the CFL in a week? Never. I mean, I'm sorry for Winnipeg guys for ranting on your team, but until you guys can get some help, and let's face it, I think Willie Jefferson's lost a step. You look, even the guy we were mentioning there, Adam Bighill, has not looked like Adam Bighill this season. He's looked slower in the second in the linebacking line. This team here, I'm going to tell you the biggest problem is they're old and they're getting beat. I'm sorry, the downfall of Winnipeg is here. I don't want to make Mike seem like if Mike was here, he'd be trying to convince me otherwise. It's over for Winnipeg right now until they can get some help or they get younger. They've got some good pieces to work with. I think that I really like Tyson Ford, I believe, is one of the really good. Was that Terrell Ford?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I get all the Fords mixed up. At least I didn't call him Model A. Anyways, Tyrell Ford is one of their best pieces right now. Hallett, I think, looks really good. There's some good pieces in that Winnipeg defense, but there are some that really need to go and take a seat until they can actually get themselves going. I don't know. That defensive line has done nothing.
I mean,
I disagree that it's on the defense, though. I think the defense has actually done better at shutting teams down this year than any of us are giving them credit for. Like I said earlier, opposing quarterbacks against the Bombers put up the second lowest totals in fantasy behind Montreal so far. They're giving up a lot to the run for sure, and that is definitely an issue for them. And I agree that some of them are taking a step back on the defense, but by and far and large, it's been the offense has been the problem, and it's been the special teams has been the problem. And they get to face their nightmare decision this week when they have to face Janarian Grant, who they let go, and they've had nothing in the return game really this year. Myron Mitchell didn't do anything. Chris Smith came in. He looked good for a couple of weeks. I don't know if he was injured or if he was benched this last week, and Cody Case came in. Meanwhile, Janarian Grant, I think, has returned touchdowns in 3 straight weeks now for the Argos. They brought him in on a cheap contract late in the offseason. He's been a difference maker there, and you have to wonder how much that would help the Bombers' offense if they would have kept a guy like Janarian Grant. But yeah, Zach Collaros has taken a step back, no question about it. And we all knew this was coming eventually. I think there was hope that they could stretch it out a little bit longer to get to, being competitive hosting the Grey Cup in 2025. But no, I think the downfall is here. And this is something Mike and I talked about quite a bit on the Monday show, the recap show this week. Go back and check that one out in the audio feed, but essentially of what are the options going forward for Winnipeg here? Because Collaros isn't your long-term answer. Chris Streveler's not your long-term answer. Is it Terry Wilson? Is it trade for Trey Ford? Is it, draft a quarterback, bring a new one in camp? I think there's a lot up in the air, and the Winnipeg offense has to get better here going forward. On the Toronto side of the ball, what do we make of the Argos? Because this is a team we talked about last week where 3-2 coming in. There's only 2 teams they lost to were the Montreal Alouettes and Saskatchewan Roughriders, top 2 teams in the CFL. And they drop a bit of a dud here against the Ticats. Almost get it back at the end, but don't know how to manage the clock properly as Ryan Dinwiddie does. Adam, what do you think about Toronto?
I'm looking at this team, and I can see this is a team that really gets led by Kadeem Carey, who's actually had a pretty good comeback season so far for the Argonauts. Averaging the Argos are 5.4 yards per carry, which is pretty good. They've got a good rush. They got the most rushing yards in the league right now. Not just Kadeem Carey, that's everybody with 775 yards, and again averaging 129 yards a game. this is a big problem. Winnipeg, they need to shut down the run in this game or they will lose this one. That's where Toronto's strength is so far. Cameron Dukes has not done much after these first games. He really hasn't done a whole lot with his arm. Has had a few plays here and there, but all things considered, this team has been running the ball, and that's Winnipeg's down seat right now. So I don't like Winnipeg's odds going into this just because of that reason alone. Dukes doesn't need to beat him with his arm. He just needs to hand the ball off. Trey, what do you see it?
No, I agree. I kind of like. I think they've been relying on their run game a lot. Was I seeing that there was a quarterback controversy, or was that just spun up media news? Because I saw something about 3 Down saying that. At first, I thought it was Cam. They were saying Kelly was back, and then I didn't realize it was somebody else they were saying could come in. I was like, "Oh."
I think the thing has been that Nick Arbuckle last week came in and almost led the comeback for them, and I think he did that a couple weeks ago as well, where he did a lot better than everybody expected. So maybe that's fair. What it was.
That's fair, but I also think with that team, are you going to put Arbuckle in for a week or two and then have Kelly come back? Like, it's kind of a weird dynamic there sitting. I saw something about what this is off topic, but was it Edelman, when Brady had his suspension, he called it a vacation. So it was when Kelly's back from his vacation here, is he going to come back? Is he going to sit? I don't know. So, but I like Carey. We'll talk about Carey a lot later in the show, I'm sure, but I really like Carey. And like we said, Winnipeg gives up a lot of those rushing yards, even if maybe their defense is, I don't know, their defense is crap. It's the Swiss cheese, man.
I still disagree. I disagree on that.
When Toronto puts up 50 on Saturday, I'll text you.
And the other thing also is you got to look at Winnipeg. They give up the most big plays.
Yeah.
This season so far, they've given up, 18, I think?
The interesting thing here with Cameron Dukes is the reason I was so hyped on him coming into this year, and there was decent hype on him, was the performance against the Bombers last year when he got the start in that game, and they rested a bunch of starters and almost pulled off the win over a team that really needed it. And Dukes looked fantastic in that game. I think the Winnipeg does struggle more against mobile quarterbacks, which Dukes is definitely in that category. So, yeah, the game plan for Toronto's got to just be run the ball down their throat. I don't think Toronto's a passing team right now with Dukes at quarterback. And I think the run game is where they can really exploit this defense the most. So handing it off to Kadeem Carey, I think you get Deonta McMahon in there. Daniel Adeboboye gets a couple of carries in there. Keep the guys running fresh and run them all night long here is, I think, the game plan for the Argos this week. And defensively, let's see what they can do again to keep shutting down Zach Collaros here. I think the Toronto pass defense, I talk about how bad they are almost every week. To their credit, the past couple of games, I actually think they've been a little bit better. They shut Bo Levi Mitchell down under 300 yards last week, which has been hard to do so far this season. So credit to the Argos there. Let's get into our fantasy players to watch for this game. Staying away from both quarterbacks, much like Trey, if I put Zach Collaros in my lineup, come check on me to see if I'm okay. I'm not doing it. I'm not a believer in what we've seen from Collaros so far this year. Just one game over 10 fantasy points for him. Cameron Dukes as well in his last 4 games has had 3 out of 4 of them under 10 points. I need to see improvement from Dukes before I'm willing to throw him into my lineup here. So I think I'm going elsewhere at quarterback. Kadeem Carey, we'll talk about him. I'm sure you guys are going to mention him at some point as well. We've talked about him already. I think he is one of my top running back plays of the week, given how much the Bombers give up. Yeah, they do hand it off to a number of other guys as well, but Carey in all but one game this year has had double-digit carries. And he has had 11 plus fantasy points in every single game this season. So he's got that consistency for you there, and he does have a couple games over 20 on the year. Brady Oliveira, I'd consider it. I think they started giving him the ball more and more in the last couple of weeks, but the Argos do have a solid run defense. And I think I like some of the other options a little bit better. Wide receivers, I'm taking nobody from this game. I don't have faith in the passing games from either team right now. These are two teams that spread the ball around a little bit. I don't take Argos receivers, and maybe I'd take Ontario Wilson for the Bombers. After his last couple of weeks, that would probably be the one I'd consider at around $4,000. Folks who did that last week only got 6.8 from him, but he did get 201 yards out of him 2 weeks ago. So maybe he's the play here if you do want to take a receiver from this game. Trey, let's go to you.
Yeah, I agree with you kind of mentioned Carey. I think that's the slam dunk, one of your slam dunk plays at running back. I do have a receiver. I'm going to go on a hunch. Give me Rashid Bailey on his revenge game against his old team. Because I don't want to spend too much time. I get why we want. If I was going to pick one of the two, I probably would have tried to keep Bailey over Janarian Grant, only because are you really going to pay $200,000-$300,000 for a guy that steps on the field? Like I get it's game changing. I can wholly understand that, but I think the anger for what are you going to do if we let Grant go or kept Grant? There's no Oliveira, there's no Schoen, there's no Bryant. There was another piece that would have had to leave, and those pieces to me are more valuable than a punt returner. Not that Grant is not, I don't want to say Hall of Fame, but top of the class right now in the CFL. But I want to see Rashid Bailey have his revenge game. Adam?
I like it.
Like I said, I wanted to take Janarian Grant just to go and stick it to Bomber fans. He ain't going to give me any return points, though, and they don't give you points for returns. So
you do get them for touchdowns, though, but it's not worth it. Do not take a kick returner in fantasy football.
No. Otherwise, like I said, it'd be funny if they would give you points for returns. I would probably think about it because Toronto's rated the number one return team right now in the league, and Winnipeg is rated at 9th. So for blocking, So I would think for this game here, the only guy I've got is Carey. Just because, Winnipeg can't stop a run right now. Sad to hear, but that's the way it is. So, I take Kadeem Carey. That's the only one I'm going with this week on this game.
I would have actually thought about maybe Winnipeg's defense because they have finished top 4 fantasy defenses in 5 of 7 games so far. But the Argos have a really good offensive line, and Winnipeg's not getting that pressure. So I don't know if they're going to get enough pressure on Dukes to force those turnovers. So I don't like it this week. Betting picks for this game. What do we got?
I've got one here for you if you want her real quick.
Are we going to do the over-under and the spread first?
Maybe we should.
Let's do that. I like the eagerness. I like that idea. I like it. Another coin flip game on Saturday night here. Argos, I guess, get home field advantage at BMO Field. 49.5 over under. Ooh, boy. I started taking Winnipeg and then they lost. Adam, you go first.
Why not? I'm going to go with the Argonauts in this game here. The alarm bells are going to be blowing in Winnipeg like there is no tomorrow. They are about to hit the nuclear option, I think, over there, especially on their quarterback situation because, man, Collaros has been looking bad. Is there a controversy in Winnipeg? No, because you got the running back as a quarterback as your backup. Man, they should have kept Drew Brown. Anyways, Toronto, give me the over on this game. I think both of them are going to get some points, but I think Toronto's going to end up with more. So, Toronto on the over. And the coin, do you want to know what the coin does first or later on?
I do it now since it's your turn.
Sure.
Then Ryan might switch his options here so he can go.
The coin is really liking home teams this week. It's going with the Argonauts.
Okay, Adam or Ryan? Sorry.
Well, I think I'm going to have to. I think I'm going to have to stick with both Adam and the coin on this one. I do like the Argos a little bit more. And I'm going to go with the over on this game as well because I think there could be a bit of point put on the board.
Well, I agree with the over. I'll stick with that. Oh, man. It's hard. It was fun betting against the Bombers, but then they got my hope up for a week or two. When they're back-to-back wins, they got my hopes up, and I was like, okay, we're cooking. And then we lose to Saskatchewan. Yeah.
I mean, it's all part of your 14-4 riders, right?
I mean, if one good thing comes out of this year, that's looking pretty good.
God, I'll screw it up. Don't worry.
You know, I'm gonna die on the. I'll be a homer this week. I'll die on the Bombers hill. I think they are a little bit. No, fuck that. Give me Toronto. I couldn't even get it out of my mouth. Give me Toronto. Yeah.
I was gonna say this might be the first time ever I've seen Trey take the Bombers when nobody else has.
No, I can't. Like it hurt. There's the fan heart, and it hurts right now. But the betting degenerate heart is way bigger and powerful, and I listen to it more, and it says, "What are you doing, you idiot?" So I got to listen to that. Oh, and Ryan, did you take the over? You said
the green Kool-Aid is just taking an effect. It's just soaking into the brain by now.
Oh man, my verdant roots is killing me right now. Yeah. Oh man.
Adam, you had the player prop ready to go on this game?
Yep. This one's a pretty simple one. Zach Caleros. It's 275.5. I'm going to go with the under on this one.
Yeah.
Caleros has been bad. Under 275.5. Not a chance he gets over that.
Oh, thank you for spell checking. What did you say? I was so zoned out on Ryan typing on the last one.
Zach Caleros' number is 275.5 this week. Okay. I'm taking the under.
Taking the under on Claris.
Okay. You want to go next, Trey, or should I?
You go while I'm typing this out.
I'll go with Kadeem Carey over 69.5 rushing yards. I think he's had a couple of games this year hovering around the 60, a couple of games over that. Only one game under 60 yards. So, good matchup against this Bombers defense. I like Kadeem Carey to have an effective day.
Oh, you guys took the good ones. Let me see here. I like how they don't even have Cameron Duke's odds up. So that much of a controversy?
Yeah, I did not realize that was actual conversation going on.
And guess what? They have nothing for Drew Waller-Tarski up here, so I can't even go to my or my deep, or maybe they do.
No, they don't.
No, they don't. What the heck is that, man? So, and they don't even have rushing yards for Oliveira.
Oh.
Okay, then.
Well, did he practice today? Oliveira didn't practice yesterday.
Oh, yeah. See that? That's not going to help the Bombers.
You know what? Give me under 4.5 catches for Dembski because I don't want him holding on to a football. I would not trust him with a newborn baby the way he let go of that football, man. So that was ridiculous. They teach you that in middle school. Yeah, dude's not that fast anymore.
I wish it was Mario Alford that did that. That would have been just hilarious. Would have looked like a brick punch.
Yeah, that's weird. He's good. He's good for a fumble every couple of games. Nick Dembski is. All right, final game of the week here. Hamilton and Edmonton. They got my hopes up, and then Hamilton had to ruin it by pulling out the win and not blowing it last second against the Toronto Argonauts. I thought we were going to get the basement bowl this week. I mean, we still are. It's just not the winless bowl. Elks lose again after firing Chris Jones. Ticats pull out the win over the Argos, and it was ugly, but they got it done. Which of these teams can set themselves up for a good run at the end of the season with this game? What's the biggest storyline here for you? I don't know. We want to go to you first, Trey. You got something?
I want to pick a. How is Hamilton the underdog? Like I even if they. Huh?
No, that's right. I just realized it for the first time as you were saying that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like to me, even if both teams were not undefeated, but winless, I think Hamilton's played a bit better than Edmonton this year. And there's no way Commonwealth has a 3.5 point home. Yeah, give me a break on that. I think Hamilton. I think this is Hamilton's. I mean, Bethel Thompson, shut up. The schedule is the schedule. Shut up, man. Like, I don't like. Oh, we have to play Sundays and Thursday. You do that in the NFL. I'm sure you did that in arena football. I'm sure you did that in whatever USFL you did. Give me a break. Shut up. Go back to your 1 week practices in the UFL if you don't like it. I don't care. This is football. You play. The schedules are the schedules. Shut up on that. Okay, anyway. And Hamilton, I haven't heard Bo complain about the schedule in 10 years of being in the league, so give me Bo.
Yeah, those comments were wild from McLeod Bethel post game. That is one of the most raw post game interviews I think I've seen where he talked about it. And you know what? The main thing that drove that was the Elks lost a couple of guys to real bad injuries in this last game, which I think prompted that.
That's football. You could have 2 weeks off and you're gonna get someone blow out their ACL. Like
you could show up to training camp and have half the riders blow their ACL.
That's what I mean. So I don't know, man. Shut up, man. Oh, there's a couple of people in sports lately that are saying stupid things, and that's one.
You know, actually, what I found more interesting about those comments that he had that night. The CFL ones, oh, well, we shouldn't be playing here, that, or whatever. I don't care. You're an idiot. Don't bother me about that. But the one comment that really got me intrigued was, I don't like it when they pull me for Trey Ford because there's the odd play for Trey Ford now being built in for the Elks. He, pretty much threw Trey Ford under the bus a little bit. Good team player there, McLeod, but nevertheless, I'm kind of intrigued to see what they do there going on more for Trey Ford and for McLeod Bethel Thompson. I like the trade because you know what? One play you've got Trey Ford running the football, which he does well. Maybe doesn't read as well as he should, but he does run the football quite often pretty well. And then you got McLeod Bethel Thompson, who couldn't run the ball if his life depended on it, and stands in the field and makes the pass. So I don't mind the trade up. I don't know what he was complaining about on that one. But
is he Chris Jones? Is he Chris Jones's guy, and now your guy got canned? So is he like, you know what I mean? Like it's a weird thing. Like again, is he getting nervous because Chris Jones brought him in? Now Chris Jones is gone, and you know maybe these guys that are now in charge are like looking at the young kid, being like, "Oh, we've been telling Chris to start him," and maybe he's getting nervous about that because. If they're willing to fire Chris Jones after going 0-6 or whatever 0-6, why would they not change their quarterback?
You know, honestly, Edmonton is turning into like an episode of Days of Our Elks. There's always something going on out there. It's always some sort of rumor. It's always some sort of gossip. Why is Trey Ford not playing? McLeod Bethel Thompson throws this into the media. It's honestly just drama over there all the time. And I feel sorry for the podcasters from Edmonton. Because, man, if you guys don't have anything to talk about for 3 hours, I don't know what you guys are doing because there's always something funny to talk about with Edmonton. Whether it's new ownership, whether it's the quarterback going off, whether it's the backup quarterback who everybody wants to play, or what have you. I mean, I don't know. They're just not a good team, but they're sure making it dramatic.
Right? Remember when we were saying that about your team, Adam, when we had all the random off-field stuff and the bowling trips and all that? We've come such a far way.
Now we just win. It sucks. It's not as fun.
I know, it's kind of, yeah, exactly. What did I say a couple weeks ago? Losing makes winning fun. That's my mantra.
Side note, I feel sorry. The ones that actually are losing in all this, though, are the Elk fans. I mean, going to a game and you know your team is probably going to get trumped. And Commonwealth is such a big stadium, so probably goes in there from just lack of crowd. And
the thing is, you're not even at the. You can't even this season go in and expect your team to get trounced. You can expect your team to stick in the game and then disappoint you at the last second because every game they're losing by 3 or 4 points. It seems on the year. So something's got to give for Edmonton eventually. They're quickly going to be falling out of it in that West Division playoff race. I mean, they're already 6 points behind Calgary for third in the West, and that hole is only going to grow further and further. On the flip side here, Hamilton finally picks up their first win last week. Now they play an Elks team that hasn't won yet this season. If Hamilton can string another win together here suddenly, and they're 2 points behind Toronto if Toronto doesn't win this week. So Hamilton, I don't think is a team I'd count out in the East Division quite yet. I think the East is going to be a little bit jumbled this year, especially with Fajardo being out 6 weeks now. I think there's lots of room for movement across that East Division. And the big thing I think that was different for the Ticats last week is the defense finally stepped it up and they got it done. They shut down that Argos offense and they got their turnover. They forced a Cam Dukes fumble, took it back for a touchdown, and that's what we've been waiting to see, because you did the poll a couple weeks ago, Adam, and the offense is not the problem over in Hamilton. It has been the defense and it has been the special teams, and slowly but surely maybe they're actually getting better after making that special teams coaching change.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the defense, it's maybe starting to, and again, it's one game after the bye. You gotta consider that. Toronto didn't look the best that they usually do. That being said, Hamilton's offense has not been an issue, really. I mean, you're right. Shamar Bridges has looked good. I thought that last week he didn't because, I picked him for my fantasy. Of course he wouldn't. James Butler has not had a whole lot of yards to run on so far, and they are one of the lower teams for rushing. But you can see that changing pretty quick, because why wouldn't you use a guy like him to try to get some more yards? And Bo Levi Mitchell is in a renaissance. I mean, the guy was a great pickup for Ryan. Maybe not for $100, but he was a good pickup for Ryan. I think he's one of those guys that's really looked great all season. They're number 2 in offense right now, Hamilton. When you look at how many yards they have for total yardage, only behind the BC Lions. So wow. Hamilton has done very well in offense. Their defense, let's not talk about that too much. Averaging about 6.93 yards per play, which is the only one worse is actually Calgary at 8.26 yards per play to give up. So, like I say, Hamilton's got some work to do still on the defense. They are getting a little bit better every week, it seems. They're going to make it interesting in the East, that's for sure. Ottawa's one of those teams that they could easily turn around and catch, and if Calgary or Edmonton really can't get it turned around, or Winnipeg can't really get it turned around, there may not be a crossover. So, like I say, it's just a matter of catching Ottawa.
Ottawa or Toronto, right? Are we sold on Toronto not jumping that far ahead? I'm certainly not at this point in time. It's funny, you mentioned Hamilton being a top 2 offense in the CFL in terms of total yardage. How much of that is garbage time, though, right? Like, does that tell the whole picture? Because I've seen a lot of games where they're down multiple scores late and Bo's going to lead a drive to get them back into it, but not close enough. And there's a reason they've only won 1 game so far this year. So I don't think that paints the whole picture. I think if you compare them to BC has been still by far the more dominant offense consistently because they haven't been playing from behind like that. But again, I don't think the offense is the problem for Hamilton. Anything from you on the Ticats here, Trey, or do we want to jump into fantasy?
I'm good to just go with fantasy, man. Yeah.
Sounds good. Then let's get into it. Every game we've talked about so far, I've said pass on the quarterbacks. This is the game where I'm considering both options. And this is the reason, the reason I spent $100 on Bo Levi Mitchell was a joke. But he's my starting quarterback in our league this week without VA, and he's honestly probably the quarterback I'm playing in Game Zone Weekly Fantasy here. Is Bo Levi Mitchell. He has, in his last 5 games, he's got 3 finishes in the top 2. Top 4 finished there as well. A couple of weeks over 20 games, 20 points on the year. And again, the Elks, I'm not sold on them defensively either. Bo has been throwing for almost 300 yards a game. Let me see, just looking at his average on the year. He's averaging 323 a game on the year, a touchdown pass in at least every game here as well. I actually like Bo Levi Mitchell as a fantasy play this week with no Vernon Adams. I can't believe I'm saying it, but start Bo Levi Mitchell. McLeod Bethel Thompson, I would consider it against this Ticats defense, but if they're turning the corner a little bit, I would rather play Bo than I would MBT. But he's another guy that is going to throw a lot every game. He's got every game but one this year. He's thrown 35 plus pass attempts, which generally leads to a lot of yards if enough of those get completed. So those are two intriguing quarterback plays. Running back, stay away from Kevin Brown because he has not passed 10 fantasy points once this year. Really regretting him in my first round fantasy pick in our preseason draft this year. They're just not giving him the ball. He has had more than 10 carries only once this season. But James Butler, I think, is one of the top running back plays of the week. We talk about running backs against the Edmonton Elks. They are the team that gives up the most fantasy points to running backs in the CFL. And James Butler has put up 28.5 and 20.3 in his last two games. In his last 4 games, James Butler has 213 receiving yards. He has been involved heavily through the air. He has been involved on the ground. Maybe not as much the last couple of weeks, and he did pick up a touchdown last week. I really like the Butler play this week for the Hamilton Tiger Cats as one of my running back options. At wide receiver, a couple of interesting plays for the Elks. Eugene Lewis, I think, is maybe turning a corner in this Elks offense and getting a little more involved in the last 2 weeks. 6 of 6 for 89 yards 2 weeks ago, 7 of 12 for 74 last week. He's getting more usage finally in this Jarius Jackson offense here, and 2 top 10 finishes in the last 2 weeks. So I might be in on the Eugene Lewis train this week. Curly Gittins Jr. has a really favorable matchup here as well. The Ticats give up an average of 20 points a game to his wide receiver position, but he's kind of trended downwards the last couple of games, 8.7 and 7.7 in his last 2. Still getting the targets, but 6 catches for 17 yards last week, and I think his longest one was like a 10-yard catch. So he had 5 catches for a yard apiece. After that, he's getting the targets, he's getting the catches, but not putting up a ton of yards. And I am still on the Shamar Bridges train, even though he lost me some fantasy matchups last week with just 1.4 points. Again, I'm expecting big game from Bo. Bridges is a big part of that. And I think last week was a one-off where he only got 3 targets and 1 catch, and maybe they were guarding him a little more heavily. So I do like some of these receiver options from both of these teams for sure this week. That was a lot, so let me turn it over to these guys. Adam, what you got?
Yeah, pretty much what you just said here. I got lots of Hamilton, which is starting to get me a little bit tired. Like I said, I don't know which way it'll be, but I'm going to probably go with James Butler for sure. I mean, he's been good, looks good. I think Edmonton, you're right, gives up a pile of offense on run. Usually. Don't take Kevin Brown, especially in your first-round picks. I was just going to mention that one, too, while I was at it. Yeah. And then quarterback. Yeah, I'm crazy enough. I'm going to do it, too. I'm going to pick up a certain quarterback from Hamilton. Going to probably play him. Not going to say which because Ryan will be too happy about that. Who else do I got in here? Shamar Bridges, I think, has a great chance to have some big yards this week. So I'm going to probably throw him in, or I'm going to maybe throw Tim White in. Tim White hasn't had the greatest starts this season, but he does turn around usually after bye weeks, and then he gets going. So it might be time for Tim White. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, there's lots of other guys that can go on in Hamilton like you just did already, Ryan. And I'm not going to go and bore everybody with that again. So, Trey, who do you got in this game? I don't have any Edmonton guys. So, yeah. Who do you got?
Yeah, I got no Edmonton. If I am, again, I've kind of not been too bad with Gittins Jr. This year. But, yeah, on Hamilton side, I just got Shamir Bridges right now. I kind of have everything else locked up right now. But, yeah, that's fine. Got tons of budget left, though. I feel like I wish you got points or something for budget. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Because again, if you're getting a bunch of points with extra money, that should be a good thing. But
Hamilton's defense as well, cheapest defense available, $5,500. They did get a touchdown last week. They are playing the Elks, who struggle on the offensive line. That would be one of my top defensive plays this week for sure. Let's get to our betting picks for this week's game, or this final game of the week, which has the Elks favored at home, like you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, thanks, Austin, in the chat. I have no idea how in hell Hamilton isn't a 5-6 point favorite in this one. So it's a slam dunk. Bet the Ant Farm on Hamilton plus 3.5. I think, but watch me be wrong. But I think they're the better team. Even if they lost last week, I think they're the better team. And now you give me 3 points to play with. Oh, baby, that's Christmas. So give me that. And the over under 52.5, though. That's a pretty big one. I'm going to go under on that. On that one, Ryan?
I'll agree with everything you're saying there. I like the Ticats better right now. And looking at the point totals, Hamilton averages 25 points a game. Edmonton averages 24. If they hit their averages, I think that goes a little bit under here. So I'll take the under as well.
This is one of those games that I regret not having one of those massive locks and going and slamming it in because, Hamilton I would take in a heartbeat on this one, and I'm going to take the under in it as well. I don't see either team really doing a pile of offense, although both teams aren't really good at defense either. So,
yeah, spoiler alert for the next, however many weeks of the podcast, I'm not taking the Elks until they win a game. I'm just over it at this point in time. What does the coin say, though?
Oh, the coin. Let's see what it says.
The coin's going to take Edmonton.
Nope, the coin's taking Hamilton.
Ah.
Even the coin knows better than that.
And then we got prop bets for this game.
Anything against the under Edmonton?
Pierce being slow is doing good.
I can go first if we need to load it. Give me something on Eugene Lewis here. I would be tempted on either the over 4.5 receptions, but give me because the payout is slightly better. Give me over 67.5 yards on Eugene Lewis. This is a guy we were talking about 2 years ago as the top receiver in the CFL. Wasn't getting the looks early in the season. He's hit over this total in his last 2 weeks. He's getting more looks, and he's facing a defense that struggles against the pass. So give me Eugene Lewis over 67.5.
Yeah, I'll go. I'm going to go a little crazy here because FanDuel has same game parlay. So let's throw a little magic in there. Bo Levi over 316. Also over 1.5 passing with Hamilton money line. That's plus 297. So $10. And you would win $29.77. That's kind of where I'll steal a bunch.
So you're going to get sprinkles, is what you're saying, right? That was the Montreal game. That was way earlier.
Yeah, sure.
Sprinkles of magic, oh wait, no, he sprinkled something else. But anyways, James Butler, I think he's going to get over 54.5 yards. I like my running back bets. James Butler, I think, has to have a big game, and it's Edmonton. They suck against the run. So, yeah, James Butler over 54.5.
I like it. We'll see how we do on all of our bets and all of our props this week. As we get into wrapping up the show here, we've run a little bit over time, so but lots to talk about here for sure for week number 8 as we get ready for this week's games. And then we'll be back again next week again. Monday in the Discord channel. Join Mike and I live for our Week 8 recap. We'll talk about this weekend's games. And then join us right back here Wednesday night again to take a look ahead at week number 9 in CFL, where we will take a look at the storylines, fantasy players, and betting picks for each of the games. Let me pull up our... is this the one I want? Yeah, there we go. Let me pull up our social media plugs here as well. Follow us on Twitter at CF Countdown Pod or on Facebook at facebook.com/CF Countdown Pod. Check out all the other great shows from around the Canadian Football Podcast Network as well at CF Pod Network on Twitter or the Alternative Football Network at the official AFN on Twitter or alternativefootballnetwork.com. Let's start with Adam. Where can people find everything you've got going on social media?
Yeah, you can find me at Adam Stewart 1. I don't post a whole lot there, but when I do, it's usually like a good poll question or something. Like I've been doing for the fantasy or for our Canadian Football Countdown page. Every Tuesday, you can see a different question. If you got one or got a suggestion for a question, hey, give me a message at Adam Stewart 1. Never know, might use it. This week here was all about how Wally Guano said we need to go to the U.S. and expand there. Majority of the fans, well, I'm guessing you know what they probably said. No, never. So that was the fantasy question this week. Next week, I think I'm going to do one on Toronto. So keep an eye on there. Trey, where can people find you?
You can find me at the Twitter at Trey Harness Link. Always got horse racing stuff up there. I'll have some UFC stuff up this weekend with 304 in London. What else? Oh, yeah, I'm going to, if you want to check me out on the Discord, I think I'm going to sprinkle in some Olympic bets in tonight. We got some women's handball starting at 2 a.m. tonight. So let's throw that in there and maybe some men's rugby tomorrow. Let's see. The Olympics don't officially start till Friday, but some things already started. So that's a good way to, because I was looking at here. There's, who's the biggest underdog? Whatever Angola is plus 1,900 against the Netherlands in women's handball. So let's see if we can. Yeah, we'll see if I'm trying to do some quick studying here to see if it's. So I feel like there's got to be an upset. America almost lost to South Sudan in basketball the other day. I thought so.
Not men's at basketball.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
I mean, the American
there.
Yeah. They got LeBron. They got Curry.
Would have been an upset.
I don't think the men. We're gonna. That's a whole other podcast. I don't think they're gonna win, but there's some good teams in basketball. But
yeah, for sure. Remind me after the show. Set up an Olympics channel in the Discord for anybody wanting to chat about that. Which you can check out with the link in the episode description. Free to join us over there for that. You can follow Mike on Twitter at Mike Garrell to check out what he's doing in between as well. If you're a CFL team that would like to send me a hat, you can follow me on Twitter at CooperTrooper42. If you'd like to send me another one, shout out once again to the BC Lions for the gift they sent me this week. I hope I did you proud with wearing it on today's show. And yeah, you can find me on Twitter at CooperTrooper42. And check out on the CF Countdown Pod account. Adam mentioned the poll questions. Trey's got the power rankings. Didn't get a lot of heat on your power rankings this week. Maybe people finally agreed with you.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
That sucks.
Okay, got to mix it up. Put it in the randomizer next week, and see what people say about it. We've got your top fantasy scores going on there as well. I post every week. And of course, the episodes, you can find links to them there as well. Whatever podcast platform you're listening on, we appreciate if you do other fun things such as like, comment, subscribe, rate, review, share the show with your friends, help us grow the show. We always appreciate that. Thanks to everybody who joined us live this evening. I know we saw a couple new folks in the chat, so thanks for chiming in here tonight as well. And on behalf of Adam and Trey, I'm Ryan saying thank you for listening. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.